Hey everybody, welcome back to After Dinner Drinks. It's our food podcast where me and Paloma, we go to a restaurant, we come back, we pour ourselves a drink, and we talk about our experience.
Cheers.
Cheers. I'm Michael. You can find me on Instagram under McFoodie.
And I'm Paloma. You can find me at Paloma F. Machado.
And of course, you might see Grace on one of our laps. Just expect it.
Yeah, she's not here right now, so we'll see if she'll make an appearance shortly.
So this restaurant that we're going to is a very, very special restaurant. It was a restaurant that we went to for Paloma's birthday. We talked about going to 3 restaurants in New York City, and this one is truly special.
It was a place that we've been wanting to go for years now, and for some reason we just never went. It is in New York, so obviously not living in New York anymore made it a little bit more tricky, but for some reason we just never made a trip to go there, but everything worked out this time and we were able to go for my birthday.
So this restaurant for us is like the Super Bowl. It is the highest rated restaurant in the US on the San Pellegrino 50 best list. It has 2 Michelin stars, and what's extremely interesting to us is that it is actually modern, contemporary Korean food. The restaurant is
Atomix.
This restaurant, like I mentioned, is the highest rated restaurant in the United States on the 50 best list. The 50 best list rank the 50 best restaurants around the world. We've seen restaurants in New York be as high as number 1 in 11 Madison Park, I believe 2017, 2018. Per se has been there. French Laundry. There's been a bunch of restaurants on the list. Currently, the highest one we have is Atomix, and it was not an easy reservation to get. We've been trying for a long time, and we got very lucky with this reservation.
We really did. So we decided to go to New York for my birthday a few days before my birthday. It wasn't really something that we planned weeks in advance. And I was like, you know what? Like, let's try and book a really nice restaurant as well that we hadn't been to, or perhaps somewhere that we wanted to go back. So I'm like, I want to try Atomix. I know it's going to be nearly impossible and probably it's not going to happen to try and go on Talk. They use Talk as their reservation platform and try to get a table for, the Wednesday. Well, my birthday was on a Wednesday. We ended up going on a Friday for this one, which is even crazier. But I went there. It was 5 days before the date. I went on Talk, and obviously everything is sold out. So I put ourselves in the wait list with no expectation of getting a table at all. So then on Sunday, I get an email from them saying, hey, we had a cancellation on the 6th at 8:45. Do you still want the reservation? And they send it to an undisclosed number of recipients, and it says, the first person to confirm that they are available, that they want to come and confirm they have no dietary restrictions or allergies, will confirm the reservation for that person. I literally answered them in 3 minutes from receiving the email, and they wrote me back saying that the reservation was already taken by someone else. And I was like, what? This is crazy. This sucks, because I was really hoping and looking forward to go there. But then they emailed me back a couple minutes later after that email saying, hey, sorry, reservation's taken, saying, as luck would have it, we actually have an opening on Friday, the 8th at 5:30 p.m., their first season. Do you still want it? And then at that point, I called Michael. He wasn't home. And he's like, well, I think we should do it. I know it's not really the 6th, but it's still a place that we really want to go to. And I was a little bit torn because obviously it's a very expensive restaurant. And I wanted to do that for the actual day of my birthday. I was like, guys, it's not that it's not worth it. I was like, but is that something that we really want to do? So then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. We finally got a spot or a reservation or a table at the place that we really want to go to. Let's just do it. Like, fuck it. So then I made the reservation. It got confirmed. And with Talk, you have to pay ahead. So when you actually book the reservation, you're actually paying for the reservation itself. And it's non-refundable and non-changeable. The only way that you can get around is if you pass that reservation on to someone else. Now, I'm sure that if I reached out to the restaurant with enough time, they would probably try to arrange to pass the reservation on to someone else, because you are allowed to pass the reservation on to someone else. But it doesn't matter. The point is that we did get the reservation that day. So we were booked for Friday, the 8th at 5:30 p.m. first seating. And we were very, very excited.
So the thing about us is I don't like to say that the 50 best list is everything because the thing with the 50 best list, it is a little pretentious. It's expensive restaurants, it's ultra fine dining. Honestly, it's dominated by a lot of European chefs and a lot of male chefs as well. There's a lot of controversy about the inclusion in the list, but nonetheless, me and Paloma definitely like to check off restaurants on the list. And we've been to quite a few on the list.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
this is one that we had to check off. It was a bucket list thing, and we had to check it off. When we go to these restaurants, we care not just about the food. This was a 10-course tasting menu. We like to do the wine pairings traditionally. They also offer a tea pairing as well here. We opted for the wine pairing. But it's not just about the food when you go to these places. It's literally about the whole entire experience. From the moment you walk in to the second you leave, they're trying to create a magical experience to transform you into this immersive world that they create. And you're there to just experience that. And for me, that's how I learn the most. And I think Paloma as well. Every little detail matters. And when there's something that's just a little off, it's noticeable. And when there's something that's so special, it's also very, very memorable. So that's what's beautiful about going to these places. Now, you will break the bank going to these places.
Oh, absolutely. We ended up spending more than we thought we would. Um, was it worth it? You guys will see. We're going to talk about our experience, but it's definitely very expensive. It's very, very expensive. For the two of us, all in with the dining experience, the wine pairing, and service charge and tax, we spent $1,800. So about $900 a person. It's definitely very expensive and it's a unique experience.
Yeah, and the thing about these restaurants, and like I said, we've gone to a bunch of them. A lot of times in the dining room, like we talked about at John George, which is another one that was used to be on the list. It's a lot of businessmen. It's a lot of people that don't really appreciate what's going on, but they like to spend money. So they notice us pretty, almost right away that we were in the industry, and they really wanted to make that known and came up to us and kind of talked to us
Yeah. And
about.
I would say the thing too about Atomix is that the chef's counter, which is, the big thing, they have another little area that sits like 4 people that it's upstairs and it's more of like it's not a regular dining, but it's not the chef's counter. The big thing at Atomix is the chef's counter. It only sits 12 people per seating. So it's definitely a very intimate experience and everybody eats at the same time. So it is they call it a shared dining experience. So everything is synchronized in time. So every single person gets the food at the exact same time. So it's definitely very personal.
It's very personal, but nonetheless, it was a very interesting, not only dinner, but the way the restaurant's set up. When you first walk into the restaurant, you're greeted by the host. Different than some of these other restaurants, they didn't know who we were, so right away they asked, "What's the name on the reservation?" Which, if you read Will Guidara's book, uh, Unreasonable Hospitality, he talks a lot about how when you walk into EMP back in the day, they knew the person that was walking in. They didn't want it to feel like a restaurant. At this restaurant, it felt very much like a restaurant. You walked in, they said, "Hey, can you guys please wait right here?" So we stood right in front of that 4-seat other dining experience. There was nobody eating there, but we stood there, waited for the rest of the parties to come.
Along with some other people that had arrived at the same time as we did as well. And actually, before we go into the whole dining experience, I just want to say that the way that we critique restaurants also, it's not that it varies, but we are going to be a little bit more critical when we are talking about a top 10 or even a restaurant that made the world's 50 best list or a restaurant that has 2 or 3 stars or a restaurant that at the end of the day we're spending $900 per person. We're going to be a little bit more critical because the level is definitely higher or supposed to be higher. So that's just something for you to keep in mind. Obviously, when we do other of these after dinner drinks and we talk about a local neighborhood spot that it's excellent, it doesn't mean that it's going to be better or worse than what we're talking about today. But for you to understand that our level of critique on a place also changes because the expectations are a little bit different.
Yeah, and I think that we have the credibility to be able to talk about it just because we've been to so many. We went to another one on the list when we were in Dubai, opening one of our stores in Dubai a couple months ago.
That at the time was number 13 in the world, Trescent Studio, which will definitely have an episode about that experience as well.
Yeah, that experience was so amazing. It almost has skewed what fine dining really is to us because it was such an incredible experience. It was so personal and so incredible. And I think that because of that experience, we looked at this experience expecting to be absolutely mind blown. And it wasn't that. It wasn't fantastic, because it absolutely was fantastic. It just wasn't as mind blowing as our previous experience. So, like, I think Paloma said it great, that if you hear critiques here, this restaurant is incredible. They do everything perfect. The staff is so knowledgeable. Every plate is perfectly plated. The timing was perfect. It wasn't
And they were very nice
very
as
nice.
well. No, everything was very good.
Yeah, we don't really have complaints, but we just want to be honest on, like, hypercritical, looking at every single moment and what we felt could have been better and what we felt could have been worse.
Yeah.
So yeah, so getting back into the experience. So first of all, I thought it was a miss that we walked in, they just told us to, like, stand there and wait, right? Typically, like, we went.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it was a area. It wasn't really a waiting area. It was just like stand against this wall and wait for the other 8 people that will arrive around the same time as you do, and we will take you to your spot soon. It was a little bit awkward.
Yeah, it was a little awkward. What they did do was, once they did take us downstairs, which, I think it feels a little robotic too. And, like, even Noma, when you walk in, every single chef's like, welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. They went to 4 diners at a time and was like, can you please walk with us downstairs? And then they went to the other 8 diners and was like, individual, and said, can you please just stand here for a moment? We'll be right with you. And then they took the first group of diners downstairs. Before you actually walk into the chef counter, you stop and a chef is there with all of the ingredients that you're going to have tonight. Obviously, this restaurant sources the best ingredients that money can buy. They skimp zero on ingredients. They're absolutely incredible. Everything that you see, abalone, mackerel, tilefish, caviar, the produce, it looked fake how beautiful it was, honestly.
Yeah.
And they give this speech about the style of their restaurant, and then they share with you a drink. It was non-alcoholic. It was almost like a tea juice.
Yeah.
That they share with you, which other restaurants that we've been to, like Noma, which we talked about going for Paloma's birthday, I think 2 years ago, when you walk in, they give you a welcome drink. Some of these restaurants maybe sit you at a bar and give you a drink. So for me, I thought, like, sitting in this upstairs waiting area before going downstairs to see what we saw, I think they could clean that up a little bit. I think they could be a little bit more intentional and thoughtful on that first wait, right? I'm not exactly sure how they can do it. But they could do something better than just saying, hey, guys, please wait right here for a second while we take a party downstairs.
100%. I completely agree with you on that. And it would probably require some sort of redesign of the space on the upstairs side for them to be able to do that. But I think that for this level of restaurant and what you expect from it, that initial wait was pretty awkward. And it is the first experience that you have getting into the restaurant, and you want to make that memorable one way or the other.
Absolutely. Another thing I will say is the design of this restaurant, incredible, beautiful, like, beautiful, beautiful. You walk down these stairs, it's like an atrium with, like, like, kind of like a skylight that has, like, light peeking in. Then you walk into this 12-seat U-shaped chef counter, with the middle being like the service station, then the kitchen just being off to the left where you can see it. We talked to the captains and a couple of the people serving us. They were saying, that's all we have. We have one small walk-in upstairs, and that small kitchen that you see, we produce all of the food, which is very impressive.
It is very impressive. Now, obviously, it's not like they have 100 diners a night. It's still a very limited number of diners every night, but it's very impressive. It is a small space, and the type of food that they're putting out is very high level, technique-wise, very high level. So it is impressive.
Yeah, and I would say that there's 12 of us sitting for a dining experience, and I believe I counted 16 people working there. So more than one person per diner, which is, if you know anything about labor cost, that's a lot of people to have for only 12 diners at a time.
For sure.
So how the experience goes is they give us these cards when you walk in. I think
when we sit down.
When you sit down.
Yeah.
They give you
So
these cards here that you can see here, and every one of these cards, they change this up whenever they change up the menu. This is a local artist that focuses on AI art on the back, and then on the front is like the message of from the chef and from the team.
and then the card also tells you the dish that you're going to be eating next and the ingredients that are on that dish. So I'm going to read to you the first card that we received that has a message from chef JP Park. I don't want to butcher his first name, Jungyoon, I guess. Jungyoon JP Park, about the restaurant itself. So he reads, as we open Atomix, we hope this space and this moment will linger beyond a single meal, become an experience, a spark of inspiration, a memory to carry forward. Food involves more than just taste. It transcends time and space. It can take us back to cherished moments of the past or offer glimpses of something yet to come. It bridges people and cultures, weaving stories that deepen with every encounter. Rooted in tradition, we explore, reinterpret, and reimagine new ways to share what has always been. May your experience tonight at Atomix be a thread that connects past and future, a story worth remembering long after this moment fades. Thank you for being here with us. We hope that you fully savor every second of this evening. Chef JP.
So it was a very thoughtful, very beautiful way to introduce dishes. I haven't seen it before in this way, where each dish comes with a card with such a meaningful personal note. To be completely honest, I'm not the greatest reader. I don't love reading. So for me, it was a little bit of a struggle. Me and Paloma actually, before going to the restaurant, we decided to get a bottle of champagne and go to Central Park and drink a bottle of champagne before going to the restaurant. We went to a museum
Yeah,
before.
we went to the Frick collection that just reopened. Very, very nice. Highly recommend if you are in New York and want to go to a museum or see, some cool parts of New York and cool art of like the Gilded Age.
Yeah,
Great place
it was
to
cool.
check it out.
But then we got a bottle. We sat in Central Park. We drank it kind of pregame before the restaurant. So for
And
me,
we'll stop at Hillstone and got a glass of sparkling because we had about 30 minutes to kill before the reservation.
that's true. So when I walked in, I was like, oh my God, there's so much reading right now, but it's okay. Paloma's a great reader. She loves reading. Sometimes she'll even read it to me. So I thought it was an interesting way to really have the chef tell a story. And I think it's something that's very beautifully done.
Yeah,
overall.
absolutely. So let's jump into the dishes. Or perhaps should we? Well, we'll mention we did get the wine pairing, and for pretty much every single dish, there was a glass of wine that was served to accompany the dish.
Yeah. And that's something we like to do at these restaurants. The somms at these restaurants typically are very, very like wine nerds that really want to put out something that's really cool. You get to taste some very expensive bottles for obviously expensive but reasonable prices. And then also when you do that, then you get a lot more personal time with the som. In the 12 seat, I think only us and one other family of four got the wine
The wine
pairing.
taste, yeah.
By the way, there's also a ultra luxury pairing which we did not get.
Yeah, we got the regular pairing, which was very nice. I believe that the parents in that group of four, they did get the fancier version of the wine pairing, but we were very happy with ours.
Yeah, then there is a birthday table next to us, a couple that got the tea pairing. So it was really nice because they were sitting right next to us. So I also got to hear. I didn't get to experience and drink it, but I got to hear the tea, which was extremely intentional.
Yeah,
And the things they were doing with the tea were really cool. And that's something that, it's almost becomes a tasting menu in itself.
absolutely.
So we'll go through the dishes. The thing about these dishes is, number one, a lot of the flavors and the words are in Korean. So maybe you guys might not be so familiar with some of the things that we're talking about. It was 10 courses. Each one was plated, small plates, beautifully plated, very intentional. So I don't know if the best is to go dish by dish, or maybe we could just kind of.
I don't think so. I think we can just mention overall what they were.
Yeah. So we started with a mackerel dish. It was a raw mackerel, so almost like.
With mustard kimchi.
Yep, we had a mustard and kimchi. It was a great way to start the meal. One thing that happened during this experience is me and Paloma were talking about the dish, and everybody at this restaurant is trained to listen. And
That's another thing. When you go to these restaurants, always expect someone to be listening to your conversation. It's not it's not like they do it because they're trying to get information from you. They're just trained that way because they want to give you the best service possible. They're essentially trying to anticipate your next move, so the whole experience becomes flawless.
Yeah, and it's so for us dining, it's very, very different than the birthday couple next to us or the family of four that was clearly extremely wealthy, right? It's just the level and what the expectation is different. So Paloma and I were talking about the food. We were talking about different flavors and textures and temperatures within the food. And then one of the servers or captains, they're not even captains. It's pretty much four people that command the whole room. One of them's the som and three other. They're all high level positions. There's not really too much of a hierarchy in terms of the service. Came up to us and was like, "Are you guys in the industry?" And we're like, "Oh, yeah." So we started talking to her a little bit about the industry and where we worked. And I was like, "How'd you know?" And she's like, "Well, first I heard you guys talking about the food." And she goes, "Second of all, she has a bunch of exposed tattoos. So that's usually a dead giveaway."
Yeah, especially, I mean, again, we're talking
Mhm.
about a very expensive experience. The majority of people that go to these experiences tend to be wealthy individuals that work in banking, in private equity, in
trust
real
funds.
estate, trust fund, babies, or whatever it may be. They don't tend to have exposed tattoos. So whenever these type of restaurants see diners with exposed tattoos, they tend to think that they might work in the industry.
Yeah, she's like, "Once I heard you guys talking about the dish, I thought, and then when I saw the tattoos, she's like, I pretty much knew that you had to be in the industry,"
Yeah.
which was nice. We talked to her for a while. She was great. One thing that I will say that I did not love about this restaurant, and it wasn't anything to do with the food. It had to do with the service. Is when they dropped our dishes, one of the servers would tell essentially four diners what they got. So it was me and Paloma, then the couple next to us celebrating their birthday. So it was sometimes a little hard to hear. It felt impersonal.
Yeah. I think that was the biggest um there were two big things in my opinion that made the experience less enjoyable, if you will. Number one was the waiting upstairs in like an awkward way to be brought downstairs to start the experience. Number two was when they would present a dish and talk about the dish. Those were the two big things that I think were misses that, in my opinion, if they improve on that, it would make the experience exponentially better. And they will probably get that third Michelin star that they're looking for.
Yeah, I agree with that. I did love the finesse of them synchronized dropping. It was almost like militaristic without being rough. Like when they were ready to drop dishes, chef would call, all everybody would line up perfectly, and then one by one they would take the dish, and then chef would say 2 to 22, 4 to 24, and then one by one they would go and drop the dishes at the perfect time with so much finesse and grace. It looked like a theater play that they've done this so many times. It was so synchronized and so beautiful to watch. And that was, like we said, there we didn't love the fact that one person was talking to four of us, but just every dish that was dropped, they did it in such intentional ways. The next
Yeah.
dish that we got was a wagyu tartare
With caviar.
with caviar. It was like a small, like almost like in a cracker.
Yeah, and here's the thing, all these dishes, we're saying it's 10 dishes. They were very, very small. They are bite size. That's
Yeah,
why you can do 10 dishes and not die from all the food that you ate.
exactly. Definitely very seafood focused on this menu. I don't know if it was a seafood menu, but it was very seafood focused.
Yeah.
The next dish we got was a bluefin tuna. That was really nice. And then we got a king crab dish, which
Also with caviar.
also with caviar. A little secret about both me and Paloma, king crab is definitely the goat of crabs.
Yeah,
I grew up in South Florida, stone crabs everywhere, stone crab season. I don't care what you tell me, king crab is the best.
king crab's the best.
It's not the cheapest, but it's definitely the
Yeah.
best. After that, we got another mackerel. So first we had a horse mackerel, and this was a different mackerel, which I thought was a cool play. This one was not. This one was served hot. It wasn't served cold. So they showed the versatility of a species of fish in two different ways, which I definitely enjoyed that. I thought that was a cool play. And then we got the abalone. The abalone, if you guys don't know what that is, it's almost like it's like a shell, like a oyster or
It's a bivalve.
a bivalve. Very good. It was a cool dish. Then we got the tilefish, which I love seeing. I remember back in like 2015 when I was working at a restaurant, we had tilefish on the menu, and in like the early 2000s, tilefish was looked at as like a trash fish. Nobody would eat it, and then people realized like tilefish is amazing.
Yeah.
It's such a great fish, and it's become like a staple of a lot of fine dining menus. I felt we were at the restaurant I was working at the time. I felt like we were very early on tilefish. You see it a lot more now, but it really is a beautiful fish, and it does. I don't know why we thought it was a trash fish back in the day.
Yeah.
But
it's funny, right? How things change like that. Just like I think lobster in the early 1900s, and before it was poor man's food. Poor man's food. Poor man's food. Yeah.
now it's
They fed it to prisoners, like you said. So it's
speaking of lobster, that was actually the next dish we got
true.
was the lobster,
The lobster mandu.
and then we finished with squab, which is it's part of it's a bird.
Yeah.
That's something that I said to Paloma, I wish there was one more course that was maybe a meat course or something a little bit heavier. Squab is kind of it's not like a duck. It's not as deep red as a duck, but
Yeah, but it's along those lines. And the one thing that I would say too is that in terms of progression, the menu progressed really nicely. I do think that they did go from somewhat lighter to heavier, or at least the components of the dishes allowed for the dishes to eat from lighter to heavier, which is another thing that you're always looking for when you're doing fine dining, tasting menus, to have that progression that makes sense. I do agree with you that I would have liked to see, or I would have liked to have seen a meat dish or one more dish to really bring it all together, because it was primarily seafood, and then we had the lobster, we had the squab, and then that's it. And you would think that, oh, I would like one more meat dish to really bring it all together. But overall, it was phenomenal. It was really, really nice.
Yeah, no, every single dish was seasoned perfectly, textures, temperatures, balance of flavor. I really couldn't say a bad thing about any one of the dishes. I was very blown away just by the precision, and you can see the plate. You could see the plates and the chefs plating it, and they were just such an oiled machine, so synchronized. It was honestly beautiful. I wish I had. We were sitting, if it was a U, we were sitting on the top side of the U, not
we had the worst view of the kitchen
the worst view of the
from
kitchen.
our seat, for
Yeah,
sure.
so I kept peeking my head in. They noticed that. But after that, we went into dessert. The first dessert was it was a Korean pear ice, and then the next dessert was a rice ice cream. Both of them were good. So here's kind of where I feel that they could do something. There was no real surprise. There was no I'm gonna take you somewhere else, or I'm gonna give you a kitchen tour, or I'm gonna drop something that was unexpected.
Yeah.
There wasn't really any of that.
The one thing that I'll say that they did is that the last dessert, the last ice cream came with a little candle, which was sweet.
Yeah.
It was cute of them. They offered to take a picture of us. That's also very nice. But to me, really, what was the most phenomenal thing that they did, in my opinion, is the fact that, so we were talking to our captain, hostess person, the person that was primarily serving us. And they have a lab in Seoul in which they develop a lot of the flavors, they try new techniques, they're creating new things that whenever they work, they bring them and put them on the menu in New York. So I was asking her, yeah, so I asked her if the lab was open to the public. She said, no, unfortunately, it's not. And I told her, well, that's such a shame because we're going to be going to Seoul in October. And funny enough, the week that we're going to be there, it's Chuseok holiday, which is their harvest holiday, which is the biggest holiday that they have the whole year. And it's a lunar-based holiday, so it changes every year. And it so happens that we're going to be that week, which is really a bummer because a lot of places are going to be closed. I already reached out to a few restaurants and they all said that they're going to be closed, so that sucks. So I that's why I wanted to know if the lab was open. And then at the end of the night, they actually gave us a pamphlet or whatever.
Like a brochure.
Yeah,
trifold brochure.
It's not a brochure. It's like they created it themselves, but it looks like a brochure of places to go in Seoul, of their recommendations, which to me, that was the most fantastic part of the whole dinner. I was so excited that they had that because I really actually wanted to ask them if there's anywhere that they would recommend to go to Seoul, but that's a weird question to ask, like at a restaurant. Like that's just not the type of question you'd ask. And I was so happy that they had that. So to me, that almost overcame the lack of surprise at the end, or like making the experience hyper memorable or different in a way that we see in other places like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that obviously we're not the first person to ask that question. They were prepared with that answer, and that was a nice answer to be prepared with. Overall, how I feel about this restaurant is like the restaurants that are really pushing the envelope on things are doing things to create an immersive experience and really try to give you something different. I felt that this restaurant just executed everything perfectly. And that's kind of what they're hanging their hat on, right? We make perfect dishes. We have perfect synchronized service. Everything we do is 100% every single time. And like, that's what we do. And I can appreciate that. It's just for me, when I look at the 50 best list, and like we said, we went to that restaurant in Dubai, which I never say right. So I'll let Paloma say the name of it.
Preston Studio.
That restaurant was incredibly memorable, right? They knew who we were. They knew that we were opening a restaurant in Dubai. They gave us such a personal experience. And not only that, every single dish they dropped on our plates, they were so passionate about what they were serving us.
Yeah.
Their whole, and we're going to do a whole episode on this because this is one of the best dining experiences we've ever had. Like their whole thing is like trying to show people India as a country. And obviously India is huge and there's so many regions with so many diverse cuisines and cultures and languages. And they were really showing that. Every single person that worked there was Indian. Every single person that dropped food at our table, just you could just tell how much they cared. And I wasn't.
It's like they drank the Kool-Aid. Like truly. It almost felt like culty, but not in a bad way. Like I don't want to use the word culty because it wasn't. But there was so much in it. They actually lived and breathed the restaurant and what the restaurant stands for, which made the experience extremely memorable. But maybe we can talk about that more on
we'll talk about it
the
in
other
another episode.
episode.
But I was just, for me, it's like, okay, I'm comparing all of the fine dining that we go to and like what experiences I've had, and not only in the U.S. Right? We've been to in France, we've been to it in Italy, in Dubai, all over the world.
Yeah.
We're going to Japan and Korea where we're going to do some fine dining there as well, which you guys will get more episodes on that as well. But these are the things, and like I'm looking at it now, like, okay, why is the 50 best? Because Tristan Studio, they dropped from 12 to I think 27. Now I get maybe they didn't innovate the menu and innovate the food from the last time they went there. Maybe that's why they dropped. But like, what are they looking at, right? And it almost makes me and Paloma want to have our own list where like we can, and like they don't really explain to you why. Right?
Yeah.
It's like
it's just the list,
here's
and that's
the list.
it.
And if you're number one, and this is something they used to not do in the past, but now they do it. If you're number one, you're off the list. You can't be number one again. You go into like the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So but they never tell you why. It's just like here's a list. Here's 50 through 40. 50
Well,
through
they do
40.
100, right? And then they drop 100
that's
to
true.
51, and they do the whole event for the top 50 later on.
And like the Michelin guy doesn't do it. Like they give you like what the restaurant is, but not the whys.
The Michelin gives you a little bit more of like a structure on how to achieve 1, 2, or 3 stars. A little bit more, but even so, it's pretty murky. All these lists are pretty murky.
They're super subjective, and I want something that's more objective and more like concrete. Like, tell me why this restaurant is this, and tell me what that experience was. And I get it. Like, there's different people dining and different people have different experiences. But overall, I would like to see a list that is more comprehensive, that gives you more information, that you really understand why they felt this way.
Yeah.
Because to me, they were not that far apart. And on the list, they're pretty far apart.
Yeah.
Well, to even be on the 50 best list is incredible.
Yeah. And I mean, again, at this point, we are just being very detailed on our criticism of these places, and they were all very good. Don't get me wrong. Don't get us wrong. They're all very good. Like Michael mentioned, for you to even make it to the top 50 on that list, it's an incredible feat.
And it takes such a team effort. That's something that me and Palmer were talking about. Because, like, look, we've toured with the idea, we can open the best. We want to try to open a restaurant that could be on the 50 best list. Like, we've eaten at so many of them, and we've also worked in them. So, we have it on both sides, which a lot of people don't, right? A lot of people that work in the industry don't get to dine, and a lot of people that dine don't get to work. Of course, there's some, but we definitely have it on both sides. And so we talk about, like, what could we do to make, you know, the restaurant the best restaurant in the world? And one thing that we were talking about the other day is, like, you need to have 100% buy-in from every single person on the team. If every single person on the team isn't 100% dialed in, it just won't work. And that's so hard to achieve.
It's nearly impossible. It's extremely hard. So kudos to all of these places that did make the list and that we've been to, and the ones that we haven't been to yet. It's really incredible.
And I guess the last thing I would like to say to finish this episode is, like, work your way up to these restaurants, right? Don't just see a restaurant 50 best. I need to go because it's the 50 best list, because you might not understand what's happening. You might not appreciate the food. You might not, really enjoy the experience, and you're going to spend a lot of money. So if you want to go to these restaurants and you want to experience this stuff, start small, start at 1 Michelin star restaurants, work your way up, learn, educate yourself, research. So when you go there, you're not disappointed.
100%. Think of it as if you're learning anything, if you're learning a language, if you're learning to play an instrument, or if you're learning to cook. You're not going to start with the most difficult sheet of music or the most complex dish or jump straight into an advanced class for the language that you're learning. You're going to start with the basics. You're going to start small to then get your way up to whatever it may be. And you should think about dining at these places the same way.
100%. Or you might be lost.
Oh, yeah. And even if you're not lost, you're definitely not going to appreciate the experience at the same level as you could had you had the knowledge and the experience to really see it all.
Yeah. So, sorry, I'm a little sick, but that was After Dinner Drinks. We appreciate you guys. Once again, I'm Michael. You can find me on Instagram at McFoodie.
I'm Paloma. You can find me at Paloma F. Machado. You can also find us on Instagram at themouth.media. If you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe. Make sure to follow us there on Instagram as well. And drop a like or downloads for this podcast.
And who knows where we'll dine next.
Cheers.
Cheers.